Hello and welcome to Tim Tom Talks.
Tim Tom Talks. Tim Tom Talks. Tim Tom Talks. Tim Tom Talk. Yes, we do. And what we're talking about today is uncertainty. We're really uncertain how we're going to start each episode, but we need to wake you up first. But our topic is uncertainty, and what we wanted to do is Tim is going to tell you about a personal story of uncertainty and his whole relation around it. And then we'll come back to me, and then I'll talk about how we relate to it in the workplace and some overarching ideas around it, and then we'll have our discussion. So Tim, to you.
Over to me. Thank you. Yes. So just sharing a very recent personal and relational anecdote around something that's caused real uncertainty, and in particular how that has made, I'm going to say, us feel. Tom, you want to mute your mic? Sounds like you've got some wind moving across your mic. So last Thursday, today is Friday, so a week and a day ago, we discovered that my wife had had her identity stolen. And as you know, unfortunately, tens of thousands of people a year, if not hundreds of thousands of people a year, discover, this is a very alarming and unsettling discovery that causes a huge amount of uncertainty. And the uncertainty really is about consequences. So what we discovered, because a credit card arrived in the mail that my wife hadn't ordered, and whilst that's not necessarily alarming, it's unusual, at least here for us in Australia. We don't tend to get sort of access to capital and finance just sent through the mail without having requested it. And what the arrival of that credit card unleashed was this ongoing wave of uncertainty. Why has this happened? Okay, now I'm talking to this company and they're telling me that an account has been created in my name. Okay, what does that mean? Now I've got to go and get my credit report. Waiting for that report, more uncertainty. Then the report arrives. Okay, so now we've had a fake address set up. We've had bank accounts opened. We've had vehicle finance applications submitted, and we've had 2 credit card applications made. What does that mean? More uncertainty. Now I've got to go talk to those institutions and lenders and inform them of fraudulent activity. What does that mean? More uncertainty. And all of this, just this rising emotion of, basically invasion. And, for my wife in particular, because this was all being done in her name, I was just in a supporting role. It sucked so much energy out of her, and just the tale of uncertainty just continues, and then it kind of got not transferred, but I got brought into this whilst I then was waiting for my credit score to call, my credit report to come back and see if I too had been targeted. So this is unfortunately an increasingly common occurrence, but I think as an analogy of an emotional journey through shock and surprise and curiosity and alarm, and then sadness and feeling that you've basically been sort of abused in some way, and victimization is someone attacking me, which of course they're not. They're a data thief. They're looking at you as a line on a spreadsheet. It's not about you, but that's what it feels like. I think this as an extreme example of going through an experience that invokes a sense of uncertainty. This is a good analogy for us to unpack a little bit in terms of how that feeling affects how you think, and then how you think affects how you act, and then as leaders, how all of that impacts on how you lead. Tom, over to you, sir.
Over to you. And you might say, well, why did we start off with that personal story instead of just talking about work and work uncertainty? Because here's the reality. Uncertainty is a personal experience. Machines don't feel it, but markets will feel it. A market is based on people, right? And people investing. uncertainty is a human trait emotion, so it starts with the individual. It starts with groups of individuals. It starts with movements of how people are feeling. And what is the catalyst for that is something that is usually, I was going to say nonsensical, but like the pandemic was completely nonsensical. It just happened. But uncertainty, as we were looking for all these articles, and because this has been the month of uncertainty, literally and figuratively, I was searching lots of articles, and I've been reading and also looking at a lot of videos. And what I came to the conclusion in was this: our relation to uncertainty is personal and in direct correlation to what our relationship to control is. Now, the idea of control is elusive because, and it's.
Oh, I'm just going to interject. Can you just say that again? Just that little segment. Can you just repeat exactly what you just said about control?
Could you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. I heard a little dilly-dilly-dee from your computer as well, but that's okay.
I'm wondering how you heard me because my mic was off that whole time.
No, definitely good. So what you said was something to do with the individual uncertainty, how you feel about uncertainty being related to how you feel about control. Can you just repeat that? Because that was really good.
Yes, and okay.
We can definitely hear you.
Okay, yeah. I was just looking at my good mic. My good mic doesn't work on this. Anyway, our uncertainty is personal, and it is in direct relation to what we think about control. So, and how we relate to control. So if we're a person who has to know that everything is in control, uncertainty is going to just drive us crazy. If we're a person that relies on control for our security, uncertainty is going to knock you completely off balance. If you're someone that plans for uncertainty and is okay with not knowing and actually thrives on figuring it out, you're going to be much better with uncertainty than that other guy we just talked about, or a woman, or whoever. So how we think we can control everyone and everything around us, which we can't, which we try and influence, but we do not control. In that respect, our uncertainty and our resilience and adaptability to uncertainty will be at a much more positive and much more constructive than if we are someone that if everything has to line up and be aligned before you can do anything, then you're just going to have a really hard time. Now think about this, now that we talked about a person, think about teams like that, think about leaders like that, and think about companies like this, okay? So companies that are narrow-minded and have strict controls without autonomy. Now you may have to have strict controls, like for airlines, right? There's certain processes. Certain industries are going to have more restrictive requirements of control than others, and you're going to create systems and processes and what is it called? Not the reduction, the repetitive processes, so that you can ensure some sort of a singularity. However, that's not most of life, and that's not most of people, and that's not most of industries. So how do we build organizations that are built to handle uncertainty? We build adaptability, we build resilience, we build models that work with this, are design thinking, systems thinking, transformational leadership, human-centered design. These types of models are more apt to handle uncertain types of situations and be able to plan in scenarios, and understanding that one of the scenarios is we don't know what's going to happen. Just a little side note, something that I don't understand, because I planned events and marketing and tons of things my whole life. So I never understand when a bride is so upset on her wedding day that something didn't go as she planned. There are too many things happening with too many people for everything to go as it's supposed to go. It's like it's almost unrealistic to ever think about it. So always part of your plan should be, what do we do if something doesn't go as planned? And that's the reality. What do you think of that, Tim?
I was just going to say, I'm waiting for the comments to come now and be like, you don't get it. Like, yeah, this is the day I've been planning for my whole life. I mean, yeah, like personal analogy. My brother-in-law lives in Melbourne, and Melbourne right now is in their, I don't know, like 600th lockdown or something. So Melbourne's just gone into a lockdown, 7-day lockdown, and my brother-in-law's wife, her sister was supposed to be getting married on the weekend. My parents-in-law were supposed to be flying out today to go attend the wedding. They got married last night, right? Like, snap decision, let's just do it. If you're here, if you're in town, you can be basically at the venue at 7 p.m. We're doing this right now because they had to cancel their wedding last year because of lockdown. So I think in terms of my sort of, what do you need to have? What do you need to practice in order to engage with all the things that you, Dr. Tom, have just discussed there? I think for me, what's really important is practice managing your expectations and practice acceptance, right? I think for me, those two things are really important. Manage expectations around everything might need to change. I mean, that specific phrase, came in a podcast conversation that I hosted last year with this fabulous Victoria Foster. Hello, Victoria. And I think that this is one of the most, for me, operative things about the world and people and leaders right now. We're still talking about uncertainty, and we will continue talking about uncertainty even once we stop using it as a specific topic to focus on, because there is going to be more uncertainty than certainty in our world for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. I was in my lunch club. If you haven't joined Lunch Club, everybody out there, it's really great.
If you haven't, tell us, we can invite you.
Yeah, I've had amazing people that I've met.
I just caught up with my first Lunch Club in person yesterday. Like, as a continuation, it was the most beautiful meeting. Like, seriously, Lunch Club, if you're watching, we are unpaid advocates for you right now. Lunch Club.
Love. Anyway, we were talking about, she was working with some leaders that are like, okay, this is great. We're going to get back to normal. I'm like, what? Who? I mean, and now that's somebody you automatically know is somebody that needs to be in control, and that they think they're going to be in control when everything is back to normal. When there is going to be no normal, it'll be as close. If you're going to try and pigeonhole it, it's not going to work, because there's just too many things have changed, and people have gotten used to different things. And if you want to go back to the way things are, they're going to jump ship and go to the place to the company that didn't go back to the way things are, because they like the change. So this whole idea that
so interesting to me, and I'm going to generalize and stereotype here, two things that I typically try to avoid, but I think I can do so safely right now, because every time in Australia, in the mainstream media, someone comes out and is really bashing the changing in work patterns between remote, work from home, hybrid, it tends to be a persona who reflects a certain stereotype. They're either somebody who is directly, clearly invested in the old way was good, let's get back to it, please, because they're a property owner, or they run commercial office space. And we've literally had a couple of the property moguls in Australia who are clearly exposed for millions of dollars worth of leases. But also they speak to personalities who need to know where everybody is at all times and exactly what they're doing. I was reading a great article, it was yesterday, about your culture's not your office. And they were actually using, not your office building, and they were using an example of a really funky ad agency in Austin, Texas, y'all, who had designed this fabulous office space in what had been a gay nightclub. There you go. Yeah.
And they found everybody sitting in the hallways all of a sudden, just
yeah. And that they were like, and they had some some good attention, and they'd been in the New York Times and so forth. And that they had actually, founders of this agency had actually said at one point, oh, but our office doesn't just reflect our culture. Our office is now part of our culture. Like this is where we are, who we are. And that what they have found, as so many organizations, including ours, that through COVID, through transitioning into these much more, ironically, because of the technology, but much more human-centered models of working, because everybody gets to be the person that they want and need to be in the workplace, that their culture has gotten stronger, more productive, better client outcomes, more profit, blah, 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 the stuff we talk about all the time. And what you're doing by, sort of moving in really empowering way, into these hybrid and work from home models is you're actually giving more autonomy and agency for people to work in the way that's best for them. And that actually gives them more certainty. Right? Like, how much certainty do you have in your hour-and-a-half commute into the office? Am I going to get there on time? Am I going to get sideswiped at an intersection? Am I going to get rear-ended by this angry guy in a minute? This
is my sister has where she works, a great example, and I won't say the name of the company, but they all of their metrics, highest productivity, highest quality of work, best work performance, all these measures, they killed it this last year, right? We're going to bring everybody back into the office.
Yeah. So let's watch.
Well, because we're going to work, but I don't work with anybody. And then to the effect that even this particular department, even in the office, they don't work with anybody in the office. They work with some people outside, and then they're going to bring them in. What sense does that make? Except that the head of the company or that new CEO or whatever just likes to know people are there.
Yep.
Like, look at your numbers. Look at your numbers.
To reflect back on, Tom, what you said, probably now 10 minutes ago, how that person thinks about certainty and control, it then gets rolled out because they're in status and authority, right?
Right.
If everybody in that organization thinks about certainty and control the same way, then potentially that organization will thrive. If all of the other variables in the equation are positive. But if not everybody thinks that way, and let's face it, a lot of people, think about certainty and control in terms of what control they have and what agency they have over their own life, and that's kind of the wellspring of creativity and productivity, it so happens. You're actually going to see all of those high performing numbers boom when everybody leaves, because there's so many other organizations that have gone, oh yeah, either we were doing this before, so now it's just the way, or we've realized through this time. I think most organizations that I am applauding right now are saying that they encourage their staff to meet in person once a quarter.
Yeah.
Right, like once every 13-week cycle, we're going to have a physical gathering of this team, and when we do that, we're going to do different stuff.
Yeah.
That's where we accelerate the creation of trust and shared meaning, and celebrate purpose and achievement, and live our values together. The rest of the time, we can facilitate those relationships. Very loud person outside your window.
I know, and I had to turn off my fan, so I'm not closing the window.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, but we need to wrap up.
I know. There's just so much to talk about, Tom. No, you're right. Let's wrap. So we've got a new calendar month. So this will be the last Uncertainty Tim Tom Talk for a while. We will be talking about uncertainty again in a couple of months' time. We're doing well-being next, I think, aren't we? Back to well-being.
Wait, we have well-being, trust. Yeah,
well-being, trust.
We're on well-being.
Back to well-being. So in well-being, we will be talking again about stress, amongst other things. Emotional well-being will certainly be on the agenda. And I'd also like to talk about well-being, at a planetary level, if I may, because there's a bit going on right now in my world in regards to that. So thank you, everyone, for your attention. If you've joined us and stuck with us today, we appreciate it. And we will be back with you again sometime next week. Uncertain, but we will be here for sure at some point.
Bye.
Ending broadcast now.
Wow.